Hello everybody, my name is Adam, welcome to Natural One. Guys, on Tuesday, a new D&D adventure book was released, The Wild Beyond the Witchlight. Now, I'm in the middle of reading it, so far so good. I'm really enjoying the idea of being able to solve encounters, not necessarily just through combat, but through role play and problem solving. I love that. There is 21 new magic items in this book, and I'm going to go through them all today in this video. So, let's begin. First magic item is the bobbing lily pad. This is a personal vehicle that looks like a lily pad, and it walks and it swims and it flies, guys. It flies. So it can transport up to 300 pounds without any hindrance. It can carry more than that, but its speed will be reduced, and it goes in any direction that you speak. You're flying around on a lily pad. That's dope. The next magic item is the chromatic rose. This comes in 5 different colours: black, blue, green, red and white, each corresponding to a different element. It does 3 really cool things. Number 1, you get resistance to that type of damage, so you could get resistance to acid or poison. It also, if you take 10 damage of that type from any single source, instead of you taking the damage, the rose disintegrates, but you take no damage. That means you could take a massive damage from acid, and the rose will disintegrate and you'll take 0 damage instead. Not only that, but you can blow the petals from the rose to produce a 20-foot cone of whatever damage type, so fire or cold or poison. It's dictated by the colour of the rose. Each creature has to make a DC 15 Constitution saving throw or take 3d10 damage of the appropriate type. That's pretty powerful. Really cool weapon, magic item. I love it. Next is the cloak of many fashions, which at first I was like, okay, cool idea, but then I started thinking of all of the applications that you can use with this cloak. Basically, you can use a bonus action to change its style, colour and apparent quality, which means you can make it look like any cloak in the game. You can't change it from anything but a cloak, but you could argue with your DM that you could make it look like, for example, a cloak made out of leaves or bushes and get advantage on those stealth checks. I don't know, I would say yes to that as a DM. Next up is the the dread helm. Basically, it gives you red eyes and covers the rest of your face in shadow. It sounds like a cool item again, but it has got some utility. You could use this to maybe conceal your identity while you're committing a theft, or if you don't want people to know who you are, you want to intimidate them, etc. So another cool item. Next up is the dust of corrosion. Basically, you can throw this dust and it absolutely disintegrates any ferrous metal, so being iron or steel. This could have huge implications on the game. Be careful with this. I mean, they could take down foundations of buildings, they could take shields, rip shields straight off enemies. Your party is going to definitely come up with some creative uses for this. In fact, if a creature is made of ferrous metal or even partly made out of it, for example warforged or something, they will take 4d8 necrotic damage if they fail a con save. So could be very powerful. Another cool item. Next up is the eldridge staff, and I think this is really cool because I don't think monks get enough love, and this could definitely be utilized by a monk. Basically, it's a staff. It's a +1 staff, and it's got 2 abilities. They have to use charges. One of them is just an extra 1d8 lightning damage. Another one turns you invisible and teleports you and everything you have to an unoccupied space that you can see, and you remain invisible until your next turn. So you basically disappear and teleport somewhere else. It's like Misty Step but with invisibility. Very cool. Next up is a big one. This is Igrills' cauldron. So basically it comes in 2 versions. There is a good version and an evil version. I'm doing quotation marks here. To attune to it, you have to become old, very old. In fact, it says on the verge of decrepitude, and your natural lifespan will end in 3d8 days. The only way to reverse that effect is with a wish or divine intervention. So it's a real It's a real doozy. So basically the gold version, if you pour in water, you'll get meals for everybody. Well, a broth that's good for everybody to eat. If you pour in wine, it becomes an elixir that gives you temporary hit points. If you pour in water and wine, it becomes a scrying spell. And if you dip ordinary brooms into it, they become brooms of flying. Okay, now we go for the quote-unquote evil version of the cauldron. I think we're dipping our toes into spoiler territory here, so if you're a player, maybe skip ahead. DMs, listen up. So basically, if you scream into the cauldron, you summon a swarm of bats. If you dip blood into the cauldron, it emits this smoke which knocks people out basically. If you tie a dead frog onto the end of a branch and dip it in, that branch becomes a wand of polymorph. And then if you spend a minute touching the cauldron with a unicorn's horn while reciting the poem that's provided in the book, it basically freezes everybody within 1,000 feet in time, which is what a great magic item. Next up is the instrument of scribing. It can be any instrument you like. It has 3 charges, and while you're playing it, you can use one of the charges to write a magical message on a nearby object. If you're a bard, you can get more words, so it's like sending a secret message while you're just playing the lute. Next is the orb of direction. Very simple. You hold it, you say the magic words, and it tells you which way is north. It's like a cool compass. Next is the ornithopter of flying. It's a gyrocopter in D&D. What more can I say? It can carry 100 pounds. It can't hover, so it has to be constantly moving, more like a plane. And if it falls, you can't fly again for another 1d6 plus 4 days. It's 8 foot long, 14 foot wingspan. It weighs 25 pounds. It's a gyrocopter. That is dope. Next, we can impress our friends with a pipe of smoke monsters. You can basically use an action to make your puffed out smoke look like any creature. So you're going to look dope as hell next to your other friends smoking halfling's weed. Next is an absolute classic, back from older editions of D&D, pixie dust. You throw it on a friend, they can fly with a flying speed of 30 feet, and they get the ability to hover. And a little known utility to this too is when it runs out, they fall safely to the ground, taking no damage. So this is great for jumping off tall towers or cliffs without taking any damage. Next up is a really interesting one. I don't know if this has any kind of utility use. Maybe I'm just being stupid. Let me know in the comments if you can think of any creative ways of using this. It's the pole of collapsing. It is a 10-foot pole. You can speak the action word and it like shrinks into a 1-foot pole for ease of storage. Are we being trolled? Is Wizards of the Coast putting useless magic items on purpose? I don't know. Here's one that I'm really surprised didn't already exist. It's the potion of advantage. When you drink it, you basically get advantage on your next ability check. Why isn't this a thing? Why has this only just become a thing? Next up is the scissors of shadow sniping. Let's say that 5 times fast. These are so cool. So basically you can use this magic item to cut somebody's shadow away, leaving them cursed without a shadow. Not only this, but you then get to control their shadow. You can use it to attack, you can use it to perform certain tasks, and use its strength drain ability. It's basically the shadow from the monster manual. Very cool. And not only this, it replenishes at the end of the day, and it doesn't say anything in the description about you losing the shadow. So technically, if you cut somebody's shadow every single day, and these people didn't get their curses dispelled, you could just gain like an army of shadows. Finally, we have another sentient blade with Snicker Snack. This is a chaotic good blade. Obviously, it can speak to you through your mind. It's a little bit fickle. If you miss with the sword 3 times, it will give up on you and you'll become unattuned to it and you'll have to gain its trust again. It wants you to seek out and slay evil dragons. It's otherwise, apart from its sentience, it's also a pretty damn cool weapon. If you roll a 20 on an attack roll, you can just cut the creature's head off immediately. If it can't survive without a head, it's just dead as soon as you roll a 20. This is under the DM's discretion. Obviously, they could say the creature is too big, or if it's a legendary, if the creature has legendary actions, then you can sort of say that that doesn't necessarily work. But a very, very cool weapon. There's loads more to it, but we'll leave it at that for today. I could do a whole video on sentient blades. Oh, that's a really cool idea. Next is another sentient sword. This is called Steel. It is basically, it frets, it's paranoid constantly about your well-being. It really wants you to survive. He's a totally good, nice dude stuck inside a sword. It's a +2 sword, But what else it does is cast Revivify, which resurrects people if they've been dead for less than 1 minute. So it's a healer's blade. Very cool. Before we go into this one, look at that artwork. It's so creepy. They've done so well. The artwork in this whole book and all the D&D books, to be honest, is just phenomenal. Anyway, this is basically a stuffed doll which you can spend a short rest talking to and giving phrases to say at specific times. For example, you can get it so when somebody picks it up, it's like, put me down. And then you can use that in all sorts of creative ways. This next one is buy one get one free, the Wand of Scowls and the Wand of Smiles. You point it at somebody, they must make a DC 10 charisma save or be forced to scowl or smile for a whole minute. And finally, the Woodcutter's Axe. It's a +1 rare axe which gives you an extra 2d6 slashing damage when you hit plants, so you can chop down trees super quick. So that is it. That is 21 new magic items in the wild beyond the Witchlight. I cannot wait to play this adventure. These magic items are so cool. That cauldron's really interesting. I assume it's got a big part to play in the adventure. I'm definitely going to get a group together as soon as I can. What was your favourite magic item? Has it reminded you of any really cool magic items that you know of? Let me know in the comments. Thank you so much for watching, and remember, all good stories start with a natural one.